how broken or how functional is our justice system?
That's a good question.
What's up? It is Adler. Every week I host and post on my website, adler.tv, a different conversation with a different professional in a different location. This week, my guest is a lawyer. He's a civil rights lawyer. His name is Terrell McCants. And so to speak with him, I headed to downtown Birmingham to the Jefferson County Courthouse. Take a listen. I'm actually in a courtroom today just to talk to a lawyer, not about any case that I might have going on right now. I'm here with Terrell McCants, and he was kind enough to come and talk to me today. So I appreciate it very much, man. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Funny story how we know each other is, I know it always comes back to jiu-jitsu, but because in the podcast it always comes back to jiu-jitsu. But yeah, that's the funny thing about jiu-jitsu. You never know who you're about to fight. You know, you never know what kind of life they live outside of the Jiu-Jitsu Academy. It's pretty crazy, but we got to talking one day after class, and George, the instructor there, was like, dude, you should talk to this guy for your podcast. In fact, I'm going to splice in some video of us fighting right now. So here's us fighting.
Stay on top, stay on top, stay on top, stay on top. Yeah. Start back, sit back.
So, how long have you been practicing law?
Right at 9 years.
And what kind of cases are you lawyering on top of? To use the legal term.
Yeah, that's the proper
Oh,
word
good.
for it.
Is it? Good.
My firm, we handle civil rights cases, which generally fall, police misconduct cases generally fall under civil rights. That's false arrest, that's excessive force. We also handle criminal cases, and a lot of time criminal cases flow right into civil rights cases. My partner, Chris Burrell, generally handles the criminal side of it, and I'll handle the civil rights side of it.
How many cases are you generally, taking on in a given year or month, or what kind of schedule are you working?
It is a busy schedule.
Yeah.
We are usually, I'm handling probably 100 cases a year or so, and those are they're in different places along the continuum or along the schedule of the life of a lawsuit. So, yeah, there's always something going on.
What's the longest you've ever spent on a single case?
The longest I've spent on a single case is probably 3 years, maybe 4 years.
Yeah.
Just sometimes cases can go longer. You have the discovery period, you have the court schedule, you have to trial settings and things like that. Usually when we get that far out, we're trying to get to trial, and then the court's calendar comes into play as to when we'll be able to do that.
And so how long is average? What's an average case length?
Average is, with civil rights cases, we're talking maybe a year and a half, because the schedules are pretty tight in federal court, which is where most civil rights cases end up. Even if you file in state court, they're moved or removed. The law calls it removed to federal court. So they run a pretty tight ship and try to keep their dockets. The judges try to keep their dockets pretty clean. So about a year and a half or so.
And right now we are in a state courtroom.
Yes.
And so this would only cover state cases.
Yes. Well, you can have a federal case.
Oh, okay.
Because this is a circuit court we're in. We're in Jefferson County Circuit Court. The state courts have kind of joint jurisdiction with federal court on federal causes of action, but they're usually removed to federal court from state court. But the state court, if no one objects and no one removes it, you could have the exact same cases here in state court.
This is cool being up here in the balcony. I can see the jury room, the court, the judge's bench. Although he just has a chair, it doesn't look like he has an actual bench. Is it supposed to be a bench, or where does the bench come from?
Well, they call it the bench, but because he's elevated, and he sits up.
Okay.
He sits up higher.
Okay. He's not sitting on an actual bench. Oh.
Just a chair.
Okay.
A bench would probably be uncomfortable for him. But
Yeah. I mean, you need lumbar support. We all need lumbar support. And then you've got so then you've got like on the far right side, that would be the witness
yes.
place.
Yes.
And then the
where you have the microphone.
Yeah, okay. And then you got on the far left side, is that like the stenographer? Is that where that person
No,
goes?
the stenographer is usually down front.
Okay.
You see that desk there? They're usually kind of in the front to hear because they want to be able to hear the witness. That's usually the judge's assistant that sits there during trial, or a clerk will be sitting there during trial with the judge or during hearings, taking notes for the judge.
Do you ever get to say things like, "You can't handle the truth"? Is it stuff like that?
You could,
but it probably wouldn't.
Probably wouldn't be the best idea because I've seen lawyers go to jail too. So you want to keep your cool, and especially when you're representing clients that have emotional issues. Sure. The cases that I handle are usually very emotionally charged. If someone's been arrested, they've lost their livelihood as far as working, or they've been assaulted.
Yeah.
So you want to be a calming influence. Usually I don't get to the what is that, A Few Good Men?
Yeah, A Few Good Men. I object. I call order in the court. Oh, that's the judge. The judge says that.
The judge says that. You could say that, but you'll be stepping on his.
That's his zone.
That's his purview there. So it does get emotional. It's a lot of times it's kind of like jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
There's sparring, and if you're in trial and you're in the heat of a trial, you're heavily invested. I'm heavily invested in my client's case. There's an opponent there that is heavily invested in their side of it. And our goal is to prevent the other side from achieving their goal and vice versa.
Right.
So it can become emotionally charged, but you always want to try to keep your faculties because losing your cool really doesn't help you.
Yeah. It's kind of like in life, whether you're trying to return a sweater or trying to get let on the road, in traffic jam, or if you're trying to talk to your wife about financial decisions.
Yeah.
Okay. So it all
life.
Yeah, man.
Everything, it weaves all together. It's a tapestry.
By the way, there are so many seats up here. Like, you could almost have a church in this. There's the amount of seats that are in here. Is this ever like really packed out and filled up? What kind of case would it have to be in order to pack this place out?
A really high profile case.
And so anybody can just come up here and watch a.
Yes. Public trials are public.
Yeah.
This is a civil court, so the only time I've actually ever seen this packed, just in all honesty, is when a judge is being installed.
Oh, okay.
There's a ceremony called an investiture.
Yeah.
That happens where a new judge is being installed to the bench, and this place is filled with lawyers to come and wish the judge well and celebrate and do things like that. But for the most part, civil cases aren't very high profile. I was trying to actually a case where millions of dollars were on the line. And there was not one reporter. There was no crowd there. Only the necessary people were there.
Yeah.
And down the hall, there was a criminal case that had all kinds of news coverage, and the place was packed. And there wasn't a dime on the line. But people are more invested in the human plights that have something to do with freedom. And I guess it should be that way. Freedom, liberty, personal well-being, personal injury to people that rivets people and that draws a crowd. Yeah. Civil cases, not so much. We're talking bad stuff, but at the end of it, it's money. No one's going to go to jail.
Right.
No matter how bad it is, everyone goes home.
Yeah.
In civil cases.
Somebody goes home maybe a little bit more broke, but
right. Your pockets might be a little lighter when you leave.
Yeah, and they might be selling that home that they're going to, but they are going home.
Right.
Okay, I guess my main question would have to be, how broken or how functional is our justice system?
That's a good question. That is a question with a lot of layers to it, I guess.
Sure.
Me being a part of the system, I may have insider bias.
Sure.
But I see how, because I see how it works.
Yeah.
And I see how it doesn't work. But I have gotten I have spent my life really with an attitude of show me the rules and I'll play.
Yeah.
That's all you.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do for me. I don't really bemoan whether the rules are good, whether the rules are bad. It's like, well, like basketball, the rim is 10 feet. Well, if I wanted to be able to slam dunk, it would be better for me if it was 7 feet. But that's how it is. I just show up and I do what I can do with the abilities that I have. So the system is kind of like that for me. I go into it and I explain to my clients how the system works. At the end of the day, you're going to have human beings. I have clients that come and tell me, okay, X, Y, and Z happened to me. And I have to take that and prove that X, Y, and Z happened to you. And a lot of things go into that. Your demeanor goes into that. Your credibility will be judged. Fair or not fair, it happens, because as I tell people all the time, we're not feeding information into a computer and it'll give you back an answer. Like the jury box. As we have 12 different personalities. We have some strong personalities, some weaker, some quiet. People have all kinds of things going on in their lives at that time. While we spend a lot of time with the case, where me and my client spends more time with it than I do, but by the time we get to a trial, I've spent a year or two investing in it. So this is very important to me, but I'm going to introduce it to 12 people or 14 people, count alternates, that this is the first time they've heard of this. And I have to unpack this for them, hopefully compel them to care about my client's plight within a week. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's a perfect system, but there are no perfect systems when you're talking about human beings. At the end of the day, human beings, if you ever had a perfect system, as soon as you handed it over to human beings, it will be imperfect. So, but do I think it's the best system around? Yeah, I think the rule of law is awesome. The rule of law is everything. I think back to a story of John Adams, where he's representing a British soldier against a patriot if you're an American, or a rebel if you're British, whichever side.
Yeah, it's either a patriot or a traitor.
Right.
Yeah.
But he represents the man because the man kills an American. British soldier, the sworn enemies at this point, kills an American, and he defends him. John Adams is one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. He don't get more American than John Adams.
Right.
So he catches some flack about it. Why do you represent him? Why are you representing this man? And he says, and I'm probably going to butcher his quote, but he says, facts are stubborn things. The man was right. It didn't matter who he was. The rule of law is you have a right to defend yourself against unprovoked aggression. Doesn't matter whether you're a British soldier or an American citizen. So the rule of law, I wouldn't want to live in a country that didn't have the rule of law, that you couldn't at least know how things come about, or have some general. Now, things happen. Human beings, like I said, human beings run the system. So we have times where injustice happens because people don't get it right all the time. But there are places where injustice, like, it's news here. It's a big deal here because of the rule of law. Because the system works most of the time. In countries that there is no rule of law, it's not a big deal when injustice happens because that is the rule.
That's the rule, yeah.
So I really like this subject. I think we're in the best country in the world.
You know, because there's a lot of steps to the process of getting out of trouble. It's really easy to get into trouble. Getting out of trouble is very difficult. You have to be responsible, you have to be on time, and you have to have some disposable income. And that, to me, I was just like, oh my gosh, our justice system is broken. This is just revenuing. But then I'm like, what else are we gonna do? You know, here the law is clear. I broke that law. And then what I have to do to not get it, to stay out of jail, those rules are clear too. Your options are laid out in front of you, and it's not arbitrary. And you can, if you go through the right steps, then you can stay out of prison. So, I mean,
that's show me the rules.
Yeah.
And I'll play by them. That's what the system is about. I got into this because one of the rules is that you have someone to speak for you. You have someone that is trained in the law. You have someone that has the education, has the experience to come and speak for you. They know the ropes, and they can guide you through whatever the case is. So I got into it because I wanted to be that person to help people to fight. Kind of, I see it as a leveling of the playing field. This is an intimidating place.
It is.
You walk in, there is a person sitting on a bench.
Not an actual bench. Just found that out. It's not an actual bench, everybody.
They're sitting up high with a black robe on. It's grand. Ceilings are high.
It is grand, man.
There's wood all over the place.
Nice polished wood.
And if you're
black and gold name tags, frames, plaques everywhere.
And when you're walking into it, it's like, oh my God, I have walked into another world. So walking in alone, but it helps to walk in with a guide. There's a thing that I love, the hero's journey. And it's kind of where it's the story of how pretty much how life works, how all good stories are pretty much set on top of the bones of the hero's journey. And you have the hero they're in their comfortable world, and it's status quo. You're living your life. You're going to work. You're taking care of your family. You're doing whatever. And then there's an inciting event that calls you forth out of that world, calls the hero out of that world. And now you're coming into a place where it's full of dragons and things that you're unfamiliar with. You have to come into, and the hero's reluctant because we don't like change. We try to nail things down. For the most part, we like to have stability and predictability. And the hero comes in, and he comes into the strange world. If you've never heard of it, you go read any book or look at any movie, you'll see this unfolding. But the hero meets a guide. The guide isn't the hero, but he needs that mentor. He needs the mentor or the guide to kind of show him the lay of the land. And he'll go in, and the guy will show him, okay, this is how you do this. This is how you respond in these situations. This is what we need to do. So that's where I step in. And lawyers in general are mentors. You are the guide in this strange world that will help the hero, which is, I don't see myself as the hero. The client is the hero. You have the thing, because I can't do it. But I know the ropes. I know the lay of the land. I know how to get you there.
That's great. Yeah. If everybody tried to live their life as the hero of their own story, they would probably make better decisions. Like when you're watching a movie, whatever the hero does, you are that hero. You have that potential. So whatever you think the hero would do, be your own hero in your own story, and then be the Luke Skywalker. You know.
Yes.
And then Terrell will come around to be your Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
What would be your biggest win or biggest loss that you have felt in a courtroom before?
Actually, well, I'll start with biggest loss. Get that out the way.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this case, I thought that, man, we have it. It was an age discrimination case, and we had multiple plaintiffs, multiple people suing, and I thought, man, we're good. The jury, we tried the case, jury goes out, and they come back with a verdict for the defense. These guys had been terminated. We felt it was because of their age. The thing that the company presented as the reason was so ridiculous, and I thought we proved that in trial. When the verdict came, it was like, oh, I've been living with this thing. It's like, not to the level of your children, but it's there. You spend enough time with it. It's like your child, and they pronounce judgment on it and say, okay, no, it's not worthy. We find for the defense. And the jury, several members of the jury came up to me afterwards and said, you did a great job, but we didn't find that it was because of their age. And again, as much as it hurt, and that was a big hit to me. That was a big loss. As much as it hurt, it still came back to, this is the rule of law. If you didn't find that it was because of their age, that was the verdict that you had to. And it doesn't matter who you are. So that was my
biggest punch to the gut.
Yeah, that was the biggest punch to the gut.
Yeah.
Probably, and I have a compilation of my biggest wins, because civil cases generally, if you have a really, really good case, it settles before going to court. Yeah, it settles before going to court. But you still have to go to court. You have to go and get past, there's a thing in the law called summary judgment on civil cases. Judges can decide that a jury doesn't even need to see your case. Mm. The law is so clear on it that the facts don't matter. There's two judges, I always say this in trials. There are two judges in the courtroom. There's the judge on the bench, who is the judge of the law. And there's a judge, there are 12 judges in the jury box. They are the judge of the facts. They'll judge whether the facts are, because they ostensibly don't know the law to apply it. But the judge will tell them, this is the law, now you apply it to the facts and come back with your verdict. So my biggest victories have been in civil rights cases where I've shown judges, juries, that the actions usually of an officer was unreasonable, excessive, and that my client should not have been subjected to the treatment that they received. So there are many, many, many of those. And sometimes people, they think, okay, well, the kind of work that you do, you're anti-police. I'm not. I'm anti-lawbreaker. And it doesn't matter whether you have a badge on or not. And when an officer or anyone violates someone else's constitutional rights, you are breaking the law. So I kind of police the police. But on the other side, I've helped many police. I've represented police before in discrimination cases, represent police right now in discrimination cases. And I've also helped them in a sense that they'll never know. A lot of them will never know when someone brings me a case. And I tell them, no, the officer was justified. This may have happened to you and you may not feel good about it, but the officer in this case was justified in doing what they did. And so I'm on the side of justice, really. No matter who that is.
So you're generally not in a place where like you're getting appointed to cases where you're having to defend people, you know they're guilty. You're taking case by case.
Yes, I get to pick my cases on the civil side for sure.
Yeah.
I've practiced criminal law before. And I have been appointed and I've represented people that I thought, okay, well, you may be guilty on this.
Yeah.
But they have a right to everyone. Our Constitution gives us, the rule of law gives everyone a right to one person to defend you. Yeah. The state has all its resources. If you're charged with a crime, you have a right for one person to defend you. And I'm ethically, obviously, I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to lie for you or let you lie.
Right.
If I know about it, I'm not going to let you intentionally perjure yourself. Yeah. But you have a right to a defense. The burden of proof is on the state. Yeah. The state has to prove that you did the crime that they're charging you with. The defendant doesn't have an obligation to prove his innocence. He's presumed innocent. So.
Yeah, that is interesting how in criminal and civil cases the burden of proof is way, way different, but I'm glad that it is, Yeah. I'm glad that if we have to lean towards either putting innocent people in jail or,
Yeah, a few guilty people get away.
Yeah.
And I think it all comes out in the wash.
There you go. Yeah, they're going to do something else. They're not making good decisions. They'll continue that pattern of behavior. I've never been requested to serve jury duty. Is that because they just, they can just tell that I make bad decisions, so they're like, let's not ask that guy?
No, that's not how it works. Once you register to vote, that's the jury list for whatever county you're in. I've never been on a jury myself. The one time I was called for jury duty, it was down in Mobile County, which is where I'm originally from. But I had already moved to Birmingham by then, so I didn't. This is going to sound so nerdy, but I didn't get to serve. Like most people want to get out of jury duty. I would love to have been on a jury just to know what happens back, because I'm usually out here, just in the dark, and I get their decision. That's right. But I don't know exactly what's going on back there. The judge always tells them don't talk about the case, but you got a group of human beings that have nothing in common. Yeah. Or they have very little, obviously, in common. Besides this case, right. So
it's probably going to come up.
Right. I have my suspicions that they may talk about it a little bit before it's time to talk about it. Yeah. But I've never had that experience.
The one thing, and I know this may not be your area, but one thing I hear a lot of people talk about is that the problem that we have with our justice system right now is that we have for-profit prisons. So people essentially are making money to have people put in a cage, and it's tainting our justice system. And we've got, these crazy overcrowded prisons. We've got people returning to prison and living a life of incarceration. What's going on? How do we fix it? And something tells me that the fact that the problem's gotten so bad, we've got Kim Kardashian and Kanye West talking about it with the president, who is Donald Trump, by the way. And that's not a reality show. That's just the real life. Anyways, so how do we fix that? Or what can we do?
That's not my area per se.
Sure.
I've heard about it. I've read about it. And recently there was a judge, I forget where it was, but he was just indicted because he was sending juvenile to a for-profit juvenile detention center. So I think it poses a problem when you have for-profit detention centers, because you have that, like, again, human beings are running the system. So anytime there's money to be made and justice is connected to it, or lack thereof is connected to it, and especially when there's large sums of money, you have people that will stretch the limits of legality and sometimes break over into outright corruption. So you don't want to. I don't know how necessarily you fix that. I know that the states are a lot of states are at their wits' end on trying to house prisoners, and they have the overcrowding. So that can seem like a good solution, but a lot of times with a lot of things in life, when you fix one thing, it causes a different thing that needs to be maintenance. Okay, well, we can solve overcrowding. Well, now we've introduced for-profit, kind of like for-profit schools. A lot of the for-profit schools have gone down, gone out of business, because profit can become the motive versus what the thing is there to do.
Right. Man, thanks so much for taking time to sit down and talk to me. This was really, really interesting, and I definitely, have learned a lot just from sitting and talking to you, just about how even just because it's not in my world, the difference between civil and criminal, that kind of stuff. So I have a very basic knowledge of how our justice system works. So I appreciate you taking time to talk to me, man. And I guess the main last question I have for you is did OJ really do it? That might not be your area either.
Well, I was a kid when OJ did or did not do it.
Sure.
And I've actually read a couple books I've read a book on the criminal side of it and the civil side of it.
Right, because there was two, and he was innocent in the criminal and then guilty in the civil.
Yes.
Of murder.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of things, well, it's wrongful death on the civil side.
Okay.
So
of wrongful death. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So and there's different, like you said, there's different burdens of proof, and there's different thresholds for the evidence that you need. And for the criminal side, there's no way for them a defendant that has the right not to testify. You can't force a criminal defendant to testify against themselves or testify, period. Mm-hmm. They can choose to. Mm-hmm. So OJ, he didn't have to testify in the criminal case, which helped him tremendously, because he did have to testify in the civil case. He had to he had to have his deposition taken, which is just sitting in an office having your testimony taken down by a court reporter. Same as is sworn, is under oath, everything like that, just like being in a courtroom. So he had deposition, he had courtroom testimony, and a lot of things that led to that jury easily finding that he was liable. So I won't substitute my opinion for those juries' opinions, but one jury got to hear from him, the other didn't.
And they found him not guilty, but they found him liable.
Yes, they found him liable, and money damages come with that.
There's your difference between criminal and civil.
Rule of law. The rule of law. In the criminal side, the prosecutor had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he did it. Prosecutor didn't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt that he did it. And when you're talking reasonable doubt, all that is do you have doubt, and is there a reason for it? Do you have
what's the reason?
Do you have a sound reason for it? And he had skilled defense lawyers that showed a lot of reasons to doubt.
There you go.
And your case crumbles as a prosecutor. And on the civil side, they just had to show by the preponderance of the evidence, which is, we use this in court all the time, the scales, put a feather on one side, that side wins.
Yep.
If it's more likely than not that he did it, you win. And they were able to show. They showed a lot.
Yeah.
And it was, they might have won the criminal case with the evidence that they had.
Talk to me about why you chose this picture to be above your, be above you and behind you. Yeah, talk about the importance of that picture in your profile picture.
Okay, that is Lyndon Johnson signing the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That's where Title VII comes from, where that made employment discrimination illegal, or made a lot of things illegal, but Title VII is about employment discrimination and people having an equal playing field. You couldn't discriminate against someone on the basis of their race, their sex, their national origin. So that was important to me, though I wasn't born at that time, but that I do a lot of Title VII work because those things are essential. Being able to make a living, people support their families, support their lives, and to have a fair playing field. I think that's a big deal because you want people to be able to be able to say, okay, give me the rules and I'll play. Don't put me behind the 8 ball. Let me compete. It's not equal outcomes. It's equal opportunity. That's all anyone can ask for. Yeah. Give me an opportunity to compete and to win. Don't guarantee the outcome because that would be unfair. You'd have to discriminate against someone to guarantee an outcome, but you can give me the right and the chance.
Well, man, thank you so much again for talking to me and sitting down to chat with me. And I'm with you, man. I'm a big fan of police. We need them. I love them. I respect them. But, absolute power corrupts absolutely, so nobody needs to have absolute power in any situation. Nobody's above the law in this country, thankfully. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. This week's featured nonprofit is Prison Fellowship. Prison Fellowship trains churches and communities inside and outside of prison to support the restoration of those affected by incarceration. They equip correctional leaders and volunteers and incarcerated men and women to help make prisons more rehabilitative places. And they collaborate with churches and local service providers to support former prisoners, their families, and their communities. So for more information, you can go to prisonfellowship.org. Next week, my guest is April Jones. She's a licensed neuromuscular therapist, and she has a passion for creating homemade natural remedies. So if you want to check her out in the meantime, she's The Concoction Queen on Instagram, and we're going to have a great conversation. That's all coming up next week. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. I'll catch you then. The preceding program was for entertainment purposes only. No representation is being made that the quality of legal services provided by my guests is superior to the other lawyers.